All right. Well, thank you for joining us, everybody. I have Evan Weber, and for everyone's benefit, thanks a lot for joining us, Evan, first of all. To share more about you, you've been in digital marketing since the late 1990s. You've worked with more than 300 brands now. You've been
Yeah.
running experience advertising for more than 13 years now, award-winning agency. And you've got more than 200 LinkedIn recommendations. That's awesome. I'm sure you've been doing a lot lately.
Well, thanks for having me. Yeah, I've grown those over the years. I leave them for people first and then they reciprocate. That's the key. That's the trick to building up your recommendations on LinkedIn.
So that's awesome. I'm sure that's an amazing asset to have.
Yeah. Yeah. I get a lot of comments on that. People do mention it when I talk to them. Absolutely.
Awesome. But okay, so for everyone's benefit, we're going to structure this in 3 or 4 parts. We're going to first talk about why conversion rate may be difficult for most of the brands, or at least difficult in the form of extracting maximum efficiency out of it. The other part is going to be about, of course, the impact of conversion optimization on digital marketing statistics. So that's where Evan is going to weigh in with all of his experience. And then we'll go to the 5 optimization ideas. I also want to give a quick shout out to the team here at ConvertCard. We've just launched an amazing ebook, which is a full-blown 50-page audit of Amazon.com and what makes Amazon.com convert. So we're going to send this ebook out to everybody who's already signed up for this webinar. To come back to the conversation, I'm just going to take the lead on this, Evan, and move to the first section of our conversation on why conversion rate optimization in e-commerce is hard. And when I say that, what I really mean is not that brands are unable to do it. It's about the outcome that comes out of doing it, if on an ongoing basis. So really, the way that we look at it, there are 2 dimensions to conversion rate optimization. The first one, of course, is the process where you've got to begin with collecting meaningful data. Now, tools like Google Analytics can definitely help solve that problem. But then, of course, data alone doesn't matter. I have known a lot of analysts in my life, that'll just be great at crunching data, but drawing inference and drawing insights from data is a whole different ballgame. So the second step there is to analyze and find problems, and then once you've found them, to create solutions. Now, when you talk about creating solutions, it could either be you coding stuff in to make things better, or you signing up with third-party solutions that would solve isolated problems. And that's actually one of the key bottlenecks, that for each problem you find on the site, you would end up going and signing up with one tool after another. So you would have reviews, you would sign up with a personalization tool, another one for search, another one for pop-ups, and so on and so forth. But then again, that's not it. You got to test the solution to make sure that it brings the impact that you expect it to bring. And that's when you complete the cycle. But then you don't stop. You've got to keep doing it again and again and again. And that's when it really makes sense. The second dimension is the problem dimension in e-commerce, which is that all the tools that a company needs to sign up with and all the problems that they find with data can actually fall in all of these buckets, these behavioral buckets. So it could be the motivation of the customer that comes to the site. It could be the fact that they may not be able to trust you. It could be the fact that the content is not relevant or the value proposition is not clear for them. Or there's friction. Maybe they're not able to find what they may be looking for. So you've got to attack those problems. And when I talk about doing all of this together, that's exactly what makes conversion optimization hard. We've worked with hundreds of companies so far, and for each company that we come across that uses, tens and 12s of tools to solve for conversion optimization, the key challenge ends up being the fact that these tools won't talk to each other. There's no all-in-one solution, what I'd say, out there, and of course, the fact that the outcome from the tool really depends on the team's efficiency to use the tool. So, mostly the market is all about, here's an amazing technology, all the best, use it to the best of your ability. And I think that's why conversion optimization is broken. And that's what needs to be fixed. In fact, we did an analysis, a full-blown study on about 8,000 top e-commerce businesses in the world. And we figured out that And the average e-commerce business is actually using about 8 different tools at any given time to solve for conversion optimization.
Right.
So that's level one, and level two, of course, is the importance of conversion rate optimization. And I think that's where I would want you to weigh in, Evan.
Right. A lot of companies don't focus on improving their website's conversion rate. So that's part of the problem. And like you said, they use multiple tools to address each individual function or widget on the website that's attempting to collect data or serve up an offer or show their recently viewed products. So when you use a tool that does all of those things, and basically communicates with itself,
Right.
it's a more efficient way to handle it. So yeah.
So now, one of the other things that we were talking about, and that's where I think is the impact of conversion optimization on digital marketing. You shared some points with me. So why don't you walk us through that?
Mm-hmm. Sure. Like I said, a lot of companies don't put enough emphasis on increasing their conversion rate. In fact, I'd say 99% of companies, the biggest of the big, are really the ones that, or ones that have been enlightened to how to go about conversion rate optimization. But I'd say 98% of companies aren't even focusing on it, nowhere near like it needs to. So the point of conversion optimization is really to squeeze more revenue or leads out of the traffic your website's already getting. And it's really important to do that because normally a website might convert at 2% of clicks or maybe 10% of clicks to lead. So that's never going to be enough to run effective digital advertising and really scale it. Right. So what happens with these advertising platforms like Google Ads, Facebook Ads, LinkedIn, retargeting platforms, programmatic ads, things like that, is there's so much inventory out there. There's so much search volume. There's so much display volume. There's so much great targeting you can utilize, but you can't really bring it to its reach its fruition, so to speak, unless you're converting really well or better over time. As you implement conversion optimization campaigns that work and that actually increase the website's conversion rate, you'll see a better ROI. You'll see a better return on ad spend. That'll let you crank up the faucet on your paid search, your display, your affiliates. When your website's converting better, it allows you to really let all of your digital marketing channels flourish like they should. Right. But a lot of companies don't realize that because their website only converts so well. Right. So just to get a little more specific, if you want to really compete with your competitors in pay-per-click, you have to convert well. Otherwise, you're never going to be able to bid as high as you need to get the traffic. So that's a huge problem that most companies face. Only through increasing your website's conversion rate can you really realize all your search volume, right, which is the best converting form of traffic that you can have, more or less, on the front end. As far as display, there's a whole universe of targeted display advertising that companies could be advertising towards. However, they don't convert well enough to make it work, so they can't. So a lot of companies, they can't even utilize that channel because they just don't convert well enough. So it's completely wipes that off the map. So your affiliate program. So if you want productive affiliates, which a lot of companies do, you need to have a well-converting website. If your affiliates aren't making money, if they're not clocking sales and commissions, they're not going to put more resources and effort into promoting your company. So if you want what I call, a large growing affiliate program, productive affiliate program, you'll focus on your conversion rate so you can achieve that. Your email list. In e-commerce, your email list is your #1 revenue producer. So if you're not effectively capturing emails on the website, capturing data, then you're completely, missing the boat as far as that goes, because you should be collecting emails on your site traffic any way possible, basically.
Absolutely.
Yep, that'll lead to more sales month over month. It's a proven fact.
And I think emails is also probably one of the most tool heavy space, but at the same time, it's probably not the most well thought out implementations. Mostly you would see the same kind of pop-ups going everywhere. And I know more people that hate pop-ups than like pop-ups, obviously, because everybody is just kind of, there's like 10 of those on each side. And I think all of us hate that intrusiveness. So I completely agree with you. If done well, the email list can really skyrocket. That's for sure.
Yeah, one thing I've learned by running a lot of different types of pop-ups, and ConvertCard has really helped me open my eyes to this, is the approach with the pop-up is very important. Some sites, a regular pop-up works better. Some sites, a spinning wheel works better. Some sites, a bigger discount works better. Some sites, it doesn't matter the discount. So it really has to be tested. It has to be, A/B tested, the actual types of pop-ups. So that's something, and also the follow-up emails that are sent when the user abandons the site. So those are important also. That's another reason I like ConvertCard, is because there's emphasis placed there on subject lines, on CTAs, on improving the effectiveness of the follow-up emails the website's sending to the abandoned users or the cart abandoners. So that's extremely important to get that piece right. And ConvertCard does a really good job of designing and writing the content and such. But even then, it needs to be reevaluated periodically, refreshed, so it doesn't get stale, and so it always converts as well as possible.
Absolutely.
That type thing. Real quick on the SEO front, on the organic traffic. Yeah, listen, when your website's collecting a lot of data and it's converting better, you can invest in your content strategy. You can spend money to have content written, to have articles, blog posts posted to the site. You can really open up your budget with regards to SEO and posting more content, fresh content to the website when you're collecting more data and you're actually converting better, because your content will produce more revenue. Then you'll be able to tie the content you're publishing to the website to the revenue that it's resulting in. And then you can get an ROI calculation there and say, okay, listen, we need to be spending, $5,000 a month on content as opposed to $500 a month, because we see sales coming in from those efforts. And you'll see that with, capturing the data and all the different tools that can run in the blog area or just on the site in general. So having these engaging tools, conversion-oriented tools running in the blog section or on the website in general is going to help your content produce revenue for you that you're putting out there and writing. So that's a neglected, intangible that conversion optimization brings.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, the overall gist of conversion or CRO or conversion rate optimization is squeezing more revenue or leads out of the traffic your website's already getting. I mean, that's in a nutshell. If you're not, you have to place emphasis on that and work on it on a monthly basis, if not a weekly basis, to increase that rate of conversion over time. And all the things you're doing to drive traffic to the site are going to work better. You're going to have happier affiliates. You're going to have more successful PPC campaigns. You're actually going to be able to make Google Ads work. You're going to make Facebook work. All the traffic channels will work magically when your website is converting better. So that's why it's so important.
That I couldn't agree more. And I think that sort of takes us to the next part of our conversation, where we, walk everybody through the ideas that, everybody's been waiting for. One of the things, that we did when coming up with these was, earlier we just had some amazing hypotheses to present, but now we also have some actual examples to walk everybody through, along with some tangible results from actual implementation of these ideas on real e-commerce sites. So let's kick this off. I wanna start with the first one, which is site search. Now, probably the most underestimated area. We've done studies with sites where we've seen 60 or even 40% of the total revenue coming from search, because they're an industry, which inherently customers just know what they want. And I think, just generally speaking, one of the benchmarks we have across the board is, and we've seen that across several studies, is users that come to a site and use the search bar, they normally convert at least 5 times better than users that don't. So the first example that we have here is of a client where we analyzed their search performance. And what we have seen is that the users that were using the search bar were converting just 2x better than the ones that were not using the search bar. As I said, this typically should be 5 times better. And what that sort of drop in the multiplier tells us is the efficiency of search. It's not smart enough. It doesn't really help the customer find exactly what they're looking for really quickly, right? So just to show you what we did here on the example is so this is so these guys are into aquatics. And if you look at the way the search worked earlier versus the way the search works now. So this is actually how it is right now. I'm just going to go to the earlier version of the search. Give me a second there. So basically no suggestions. It would take its time to load. And even if I do search for a keyword, let's just say food, I'm looking for aquatic food. When I do hit the enter key, it takes a bit to load, and it takes me to the next page where I can't filter through the results. As opposed to the improved version of the search, which is what we are looking at here, where if I make a search, I see the results immediately, they're image-based, and I can run filters through them on an ongoing basis. So of course, much quicker, much faster. And what we've done, like everything else that we would normally do, is we A/B tested that. So the first thing is the multiplier. Let's go back to that. So the visits without site search use were still converting at the same conversion rate, but the visits with site search use were converting 5.6 times better. So that's almost 5 times improvement on what the client was already doing. The next thing is we A/B tested the two things. So one is, of course, search within the people, the improvement in conversion rate within the people that use the search. But the next piece is, A/B testing the before and after. And if you look at it here, there again, we have a 15.86% bump. That's a pretty big number. And if you look at statistical confidence, and for everyone's benefit, that's basically the confidence of truth that we have. You have enough data, and you have tested this long enough to conclusively say that the improved version or the improved search is actually contributing to improved conversion rate as well. So search, I think, as I said, is one of the most underappreciated areas and underworked on areas in a site. If done well, it can really change things.
Yeah, I agree. Site search is critical to increasing conversion rate. And while the experimental group with the better site search was 15% better, what people need to realize is that it's a cumulative effect with these quote unquote experiments. When you launch a better site search and a better pop-up and a better subsequent tools, they all contribute to an overall boost. Each one contributes a little bit more, and you know what I mean. So that's but yeah, site search is very important. Having a good search result in the site search, having a prominent search box, which is what ConvertCart can uncover, and also where they see the results without going to another page, they just pop down on the whatever page they're searching on, is a huge usability improvement to how most site searches work. Yep.
Absolutely. And you mentioned about a prominent search bar. Now that you've mentioned it, let's make it 6 optimization ideas that are going to blow people's socks off. So this is the 6th one. But basically in this case, this is a business where users are likely to know what they want because they do Jeep parts, and you're likely to come and make a search, but the search usage was not very high. So what we've done here is we've made the search bar significantly bigger. And B, we've made it sticky. So if you scroll down, it's going to come along with the scroll, as opposed to that basically not happening earlier. So there goes that.
Yeah, that's important because it encourages people to use the search. And like Absolutely. You said, people that use the search convert at a higher rate than people that don't use the search. So you want people searching if you have products to search for. Let's throw that caveat in there.
Absolutely.
These are for e-commerce oriented websites.
I agree with you. So moving on to the next one, we are going to talk about product discovery through site navigation. So this is something really peculiar, and it talks about something that mostly is ignored. In fact, I guarantee most e-commerce optimization experts don't think that this is actually a CRO, sort of element in the page. It's mostly looked at as an SEO improvement. But the bottom line being, we run surveys all the time across different studies that we do with our clients. And in this client's specific case, we ran a survey similar to this one. So when somebody's trying to exit purely from the product page, we'd ask them, what is it that makes them leave? And majority of the customers basically chose the fact that they can't find what they're looking for. So then we basically, look deeper. And if you look at the client, they've got hundreds of thousands of products across multiple categories, and they do lighting equipment, right? So it's got a lot of categories, a lot of subcategories, and a lot of subcategories. Yeah. So if you're, for example, looking to buy a bulb, it's going to be in one corner of the journey. So what we analyzed and what we found out is that users were moving to and fro a lot between product and category navbar. Basically, if the user was on the product page, they'll go back to the navbar, find out which category they were looking for. And they would always be confused because they don't know which category they were already in the first place. Right. So how we've basically addressed that is really simple. We added breadcrumb navigation on the cell phone. So this is specific to mobile. It's always and really important. And I know that you know that to attack conversion rate specific to different channels, specific to different devices. If you address the problems in an isolated way, it makes a world of a difference. But looking at the improvement here, this is the before and this is the after. So we've added these. So the first thing, it tells the customer immediately where they are in their journey. What category, what subcategory are they in? So if they want to jump back or forth, it's going to have an immediate impact. So similar to the last example, because this one is, again, something really, peculiar, I have some data to back it up. This one was also A/B tested, and the results were even better. You're looking at a 26% improvement in conversion rate for product page for across the board. And that's actually a very phenomenal number with a 95% statistical confidence. Again, that's the certainty with which you're sure that, the improvement is in fact directly contributing to an overall improvement. But breadcrumbs, who would have thought, right?
Yeah, listen, breadcrumbs are, one of the oldest things in websites. They were big 20 years ago. They kind of like faded out of, they went into obscurity, but for e-commerce sites, they help navigation to the point where it's a must. And similarly, like we were talking about before, each of these little elements, each of these site elements or page elements contribute to the improved conversion rate, and it's a cumulative effect. So while you may say, the control group was only 60, converted at 0.62, the experiment converted at 0.79, it's only 0.1 higher, but that 0.1 could be hundreds of thousands of dollars in revenue over the course of a year.
Absolutely.
So it depends on how much site traffic the website's getting. The more site traffic, the more these small percentage increases are going to yield more revenue.
Absolutely. And this is also specific to mobile device, and it's sort of the unsaid truth. Mobile always converts lower than desktop, always. So go ahead.
Yeah, that's a really important point because a lot of companies don't separate their mobile experience and their desktop experience and attack the user experience specific to the device. Because what happens is you either have a website that's mobile optimized on desktop and mobile, or you have a desktop version and a mobile version, or you have a desktop version that's showing up on mobile, which is not the way to go. So you really need to, if you have a different desktop and mobile experience, then you need to address the users. You need to what's the word? You need to personalize the experience based on the device, the usability of the device, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's all about adapting. I think that's probably the word you're looking for. You've got to make sure you are in sync with the problem in the first place. I think a lot of gut-based optimization is what's basically, a CRO is infamous for.
Yeah, well, that's another good point is when people typically run quote unquote A/B tests or split tests on their web, they're using their own, what they think will work. They're trying 5 things, but that's not the way to do it. True. There's an element of that, but you never know what the user is going to it's going to resonate with the user. That's why you have to continually run these type of quote unquote experiments to see what resonates best with the users and leads to the most conversions.
Absolutely. So, okay, I'll hop on to the next one. This is equally interesting. And I know for a fact, this is a problem that a lot of companies face, and I'll share some insights as well while I speak about this. Now, for this client, again, we ran a survey similar to the one that we saw here, but this time we ran it on the cart and the checkout pages. So everybody was trying to leave from the cart and the checkout pages. We asked them what is it that went wrong. So most of them, 50% of them basically chose that they thought that the shipping cost was too high. Now, free shipping was not an option because that means cost and it's going to eat out of the margins.
Yeah.
But if you look at data related to, I'm just going to get this Zoom bar out of my way. So if you look at the data, so this is actually a study that BigCommerce did. I think it's about a year and a half ago, and the number one reason because of which users normally refrain from buying something online is actually shipping cost. It's added
Right.
cost to everything you're buying.
Yeah.
So what we basically thought is, we did not suggest that, they need to do some kind of free shipping for customers or something like that. The intention here was to just go after really high intent customers, only sort of try and give some kind of a discount on shipping, basically a 50% off on shipping only to the really high intent visitors. So we ran, this is a very segmented implementation, an implementation only on the cart and checkout pages for users that had a product in their cart, of course, and were leaving. Okay. The implementation looks like this. I'm going to refresh and load this pop-up right on the homepage so that we can just take a look at it. It's a pop-up, of course. But what it tells this really high intent user is you get a 50% off on shipping if you check out in the next 30 minutes. And yes, I'd like the off. So it's going to stick around. It's going to make sure that I complete the transaction. No, give me your email and take the discount stuff going on here, because that's not the intention. The intention is you've been losing these customers to high shipping costs for a while now. And the intention is to hold them back and tell them, hey, you know what? We know you want to buy from us. Here's a 50% off on shipping. And one of the key mandates that we had for the client was that you've got to have the improvement that this implementation brings has got to be sizable for it to also pay for the shipping discounts that I'm giving to some of my users. Not all of them, but some of them at least.
The upside has to overwhelm the discount they're giving.
Absolutely. And that's exactly what happened. In fact, the impact was huge. When we ran this A/B test with and without the pop-up, we saw an 88% improvement in conversion rate. Now, I think there are going to be a lot of people like me that care a lot about design and the way things look, and they don't want gimmicky stuff on their site. Let's just keep that to the side for a second. I'm talking about retaining each and every customer that's actually exiting the site because they think your shipping's too high. And I think there's a lot of ways of addressing the same problem. The problem of the fact that people think that shipping shipping cost basically becomes a big limitation. But overall, generally speaking, I think this campaign blew our minds totally.
Right. Well, the reason why it's important to run these type of surveys on the site when people look like they're exiting the site or exiting the product page is to collect this kind of information that uncovered that for this magazine site, the shipping cost was preventing people from purchasing. So that opens the door to offering half off shipping, which led to more of those people. The other important aspect of are just exit intent. Exit intent widgets or pop-ups. One type is a survey. Another type is before you go, here's a deal on shipping. These are called, and you have 20 minutes to transact. These are called time-bound offers on exit intents when the user looks like they're leaving the site. So that's a really important technique in order to increase conversion rate. There's a lot of sites just let people leave. They don't have any kind of exit intent. Yeah, listen, if you exit intent exit intent campaigns are a must, in my opinion. It's kind of like not having a pop-up on your site collecting data. You're not preventing people from leaving your site without putting an offer in front of them one last time. It's a huge lost opportunity if you don't do it. But to your point, it needs to be done tactfully. It needs to be done in a well-designed manner, in the copy has to be very good. It has to be very well thought out so that it's tasteful and it's not just seen as another annoying pop-up, but it's seen as, oh, let me get that offer. Great. Thank you.
Basically integrated as a part of the journey. Now we have an amazing question. I want to address it right now. I wanted to originally keep the questions for the end, but it's relevant to this example. It's from Jonathan Stroka. So what he says is, how are you 100% sure that it is the shipping costs and not browsers who go buy from Amazon or other lower cost sellers? Now, one of the most important things, and I really want, I really wish companies would really do this, is connecting data anomalies to behaviors using surveys. Because if you know there's a lot of people leaving you on the cart page, the first thing you do is ask them why they're leaving in the first place, and that's what we did. For everybody that was leaving in the cart page, we basically showed them an exit intent pop up like this one, and we asked them, why is it that you're leaving? And as I said here, 50% of them chose the fact that shipping cost is actually really high. They're buying magazines at the end of the day, so they don't want to pay too much over and above the cost that they're already paying. And that's how we go ahead.
Yeah. And to Jonathan's point also, about leaving and going to Amazon. Amazon, you can get your shipping free on Amazon on a lot of things. So people do go there and they try to cost compare and see if they can get the same product overall cheaper by going through Amazon as opposed to the website. But the nice thing about this strategy is you're getting them to buy on your website as opposed to going to Amazon. And that's very important, because you have to stop them from doing that. You have to actively prevent them from leaving your site and going to Amazon to try to find the product cheaper. That's very important, because you want them in your own database as opposed to buying it through Amazon, in my opinion.
Right. So we'll take questions, more questions towards the end, guys. I want to keep moving through these ideas and move to the next one, which is personalization. So I think this is also something that I think has been over evangelized, but people just don't seem to either get it or do it right. I don't mean to be sort of, too upfront about the fact that I see personalization as a message being over exploited. But let me put it this way. So I think the first thing is you've got to validate the use case for personalization and begin, with why it's needed. So we're gonna take a look at a very, very simple client, very straightforward. And in this case, more than 500 SKUs. That's not a lot of SKUs, by the way. It's not a very big site. We've looked at 6.5 million SKUs on the same site. So that's massive, right? And but the thing is, the data along with those SKUs that comes along is that the average buyer is looking at more than 3 products before completing the purchase, and this is on a health supplement site. Okay, and that means this number is actually really high for non-buyers. That means they just keep jumping from one place to another. So product discovery, and I say this again, and that's the only problem to solve. Product discovery is the only problem to solve in the beginning with personalization or recommendations of any kind. So there are 2 things: introduce relevant products basis user behavior, and show recommendations based on their activity across the journey. Don't limit it to just, I normally see websites doing a lot of recommendations on product page alone, right? And when we study on our own clients, when they're using different tools for personalization, they're very out of the box, very sort of template, algorithms that just sort of sit there. What I'm going to show you may look like that, but the thing is, you've got to think through what algorithm needs to sit where in the site, test it, and also keep looking at metrics that prove that it's in the right place in the first place. So I got 3 examples here. You've got the homepage, first of all, for this site. You've got the bestsellers up top. This wasn't there before. So this is something that we've added, after analyzing the fact that the user spends too much time moving through. And then there's, of course, popular products right at the bottom. So that's 2 things on the homepage. Then you've got the product page that has the frequently bought together. And we basically tested it between having it here and having it under the product. So that test is still going on. You could test something like that as well, where to place the strip basically. And the last one is in the cart page, which is again an upsell, algorithm of frequently bought together. So so again, as I said, first you solve for product discovery, and when the user has chosen something, you solve for upsell later. You can't confuse the 2, right? Now, if you were to look at the metrics and the impact of something like this, there are 2 or 3 things to look at here. The first is conversion rate for the visitors that engaged with these recommendations was twice that of people who were not engaging with them. At the same time, half of everybody who engaged with them, they actually added a product to cart, which means the problem of product discovery was actually addressed. If you found something you like, you'll add it to cart. That's the first thing you're going to do, right? So product discovery fundamentally gets solved like that. And the improvement with and without Reco is of about 24%. So I think personally, we could have had a lot more metrics here, sort of talking about click to convert and the revenue that personalization brings in, that kind of stuff. But if you isolate, the problem first, and you go after it, with a solution that can solve that problem, you do something like this. So as I said, it's an over evangelized space. I mean, I'm sure you must have heard your fair share of personalization pitches, wouldn't you?
Yeah, listen, personalization, quote unquote, is, let me just define it really quick for the people. It's a strategy for showing relevant products or products that were bought that other people bought in conjunction with the product that a customer may be looking at. And
Right.
it's also, it's also serving up, if they come back to the website, if on the repeat visitor, you can show them what they looked at previously with a panel of products, a widget of a strip of products. So basically what you're doing is you're taking site behavior information, actual user behavior information, and applying it to new users, like what people buy in conjunction with other products. And you're also upselling additional products in the cart, for instance, and so that increases the order size. So that gets the order value up. But you're also letting people know that came back to the site, oh, I was already looking at this product, so let me get there quickly. Yeah. So that's, increasing the time to checkout. So that helps. And you're also getting more people adding to cart, like you said, by adding the strips in strategic places, like on the homepage or various places on the site. You can add a strip of products, either vertically or horizontally, into the site's layout,
right?
And with slide out panels.
Absolutely. So moving on to the next one, and I'll just keep moving on because we've got a lot to cover. And
but wait, let me just say one more point about personalization. These type of widgets, they work very well. They are extremely effective at increasing conversion rate and getting the average order value up. So, I mean, I can't stress enough, entire companies just focus on personalization, and they're very successful, and it's a very effective tool to increasing conversion rate. So the fact that ConvertCart offers that's just one of many tools that you offer under one umbrella, which is the nice thing. But that one tool right there could change the whole game for a company right there in itself.
Absolutely. I can vouch for the fact that it does. But I don't want to top my own horn, but let me just, I'm going to keep that for later. But I think we're talking about the fifth idea here, which is another thing that I think most companies end up addressing with reviews. But you've got to understand that when you're addressing trust and you try and do that with product reviews, I want to ask just generally, have you ever seen a site that's using any reviews module and has reviews? And have you ever seen basically reviews that are less than a 4.5 star on a 5? Never. I've never seen a bad review on a, and I think that's over that because there's over moderation happening. I know the larger customer doesn't know that, but I think you've got to address trust in more subtle ways. And this is something that some people may have seen. But I think, again, we did it in a very segmented way. So what we did again is we ran a survey, but we isolated it to new visitors that were leaving the site. This is first time visitors. They don't know the brand. They don't know the products. And we assumed that trust is a problem because they would drop off from the product or the custom design pages. This brand that we're talking about, you could do your own custom t-shirt or cap there if you're an artist. This is one of my favorite brands, actually. They're not big, but they're amazing. I really like them. But if you look at what the survey pointed at, it was basically trust. Again, the survey in this case as well was an exit intent survey, something like this, running right in the middle of the screen. And what we've done here is we've just added a very small social proof element. And I'm going to have to refresh the screen to show everybody that we had the plain vanilla version, which is the same way the product page looked like, nothing too special. And the version with the social proof had a very subtle message, hot product, over 50 people looking at this product right now. But this is, again, you're not showing this to somebody who is coming back to your site. For example, I see a lot of those FOMO pop-ups being done these days. Evan bought this just now in Florida, and then you keep getting those pop-ups. And there's a point to which you can go with that kind of thing. If you do it in a segmented way and you solve for a problem where it exists, instead of sort of just spraying bullets all over the place, and you don't got any kill, right? So I think the fact that we were able to segment and then address this problem means a lot. And which is why I want to go back to sort of saying that if you watch data closely, you can find like really big problems. You know what? A lot of my customer leave in the product page. But if you break it down, does it happen more for mobile or desktop? And then further down, does it happen more for your paid traffic or for your organic or direct traffic? We normally, if there's volume, we even try and break it down even further, and we go down to regions. We say, hey, is there a specific region where that's happening more? And I think that really adds a lot of proof. So again, with this, the data says it all. A 23.75% gain, and the only thing that this does is mitigate anxiety. That's all it does. It's a very small thing, but in the segment it was run, it did its job really well. The statistical confidence again stood at 94%. Thumbs up from the client, and I think again a great idea, but more than the idea, I'd say well thought out implementation that makes the idea great instead.
Now, was that little area, that box, was that added to every product page or just certain product pages?
So we actually segmented it down. We looked at product pages that were having the most drop-offs instead of doing it across the board. Okay. The 80-20 rule applies there again, right? 80% revenue coming from top 20% products. In fact, that's another data point that a lot of companies end up not looking at, which is that their most popular products, which are the products that are viewed the most, versus their best-selling products, could be a whole different thing. Right. So you have a few products where you got the maximum amount of traffic going, but very low conversion rates. And that's often ignored because you always see where cash comes from. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So,
one really important point of that is, like if you're running through Google Shopping, for instance, and you've got products that are getting a lot of traffic in your feed, but they're not converting, that's costing you money. That's reducing your ROI in the channel. So you have to address those lesser performing products with a tool like this. The other nice, the other point with just social proof in general is, social proof is not just one thing. It's many. It could be many things. It is the Evan just bought this in Miami, and then it's 100 people are looking at this product right now. And it could be multiple social proofs, and it's the reviews.
Yeah.
They all contribute to trust. Trust, can be broken down into several areas that can all be addressed. So basically, like you say, you're making them feel less anxiety about the purchase and more comfortable, more what I call warm and fuzzy. So the more warm and fuzzies you can have around on the site, the better, in my opinion. A lot of companies don't really address that at all.
Absolutely. You bet. I completely agree with you. So I think capturing all of this in one place, and I want to take some of the questions also, but let's go back to the fundamentals, and I want to leave everybody with this message, and then I'll hand it back to you, Evan, to conclude. But the bottom line is, when companies look at data, they just look at it, and they're not relating that data to what really matters, which is behavior, which is why that data happened, which is the underlying layer below data. And when you look at data anomalies and you associate them with behavior, that's when it starts to make sense. So when you say that there's a lot of people dropping off the product page, but most of them are first-time new visitors and they are paid traffic, and you think it could be trust, but then you also run a survey to figure out if that's what the case is, you know exactly what's going wrong. And so it changes a lot. Your ability to identify the right problems improves drastically. You then also start solving the right problems, so your success rate goes up really, really high. the industry benchmark on A/B test success rate stands at between 70 to 23%. That's, I mean, that's really low. You're saying 1 in 5 tests succeed. That's criminal. In my opinion, that's a lot of effort for a lot less return. And which is
Yeah,
why I said that.
sounds like a lot of wasted time.
Exactly. And I think there are two parts. You've got to be effective with your A/B tests, which means that each A/B test should, hit them like a punch. It should be a good enough problem to solve. Spend more time hypothesizing, spend more time analyzing. And the next one is efficiency, which is you've got to be, if your tests conclude sooner and they're more meaningful, you may also be able to run more tests, and then compounding comes into play. So we're not going to have a math class here, but I think compounding is the most powerful thing there is, and that's the bottom line. So again, every time you look at data, come back and associate an anomaly or a behavioral aspect to it. Is the user not motivated enough? They came from an ad, they looked at a certain discount or an offer, but when they landed on your page, their motivation drops immediately because they saw 50% off, and now they're looking at a shipping cost of some $15 on top of a $12 product. You know what I'm saying? So that's going to really break the motivation down. Trust, value proposition, and clarity. Why should someone buy what you're selling? Why should they buy it from you? Why should they buy it right now? How well can the experience address these questions? Friction, what's broken? Why is it broken? How can it be fixed? And the last one being delight and incentive, which is where, and it is actually the last one. I think for most companies, that sits right on top. Conversions are low. Let's start offering discounts and start collecting emails. That's not how it works. I think that you've got to think things through. And incentive comes at a point where you, as I think Jonathan has been sort of pointing out, you got to build a strategy and build things inside of that strategy. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, I agree. Well, one of the important, most important things about just the whole concept is you need a tool that's going to allow you to utilize all these things we've talked about. Like we started talking about, there's a lot of individual tools that will do it, but it's better to have one tool that does it all, in my opinion. And it may not do it all, and you may need a couple others, but if you have most of the sites, widgets, and tools running under one umbrella, it helps tremendously with management. The other nice thing about ConvertCart is it's a managed service, so they do everything for you, which I really like. I really like, let me just say that, since I started working with ConvertCart, I'd say about, almost 2 years ago now, it's really been a game changer for my clients and my agency, to be honest with you, because now I can deliver, I know definitively I can deliver amazing results. Not only can I make their website convert better, but I can make their digital advertising campaigns that we're managing. I know that I have confidence that they're going to work well, and it all works together in a harmonious relationship. So when I work with a client, the first conversation is always around their website's conversion rate, what they're doing there to address it. And then if they're not addressing it properly, I recommend ConvertCart and then we start that process of implementing it and working on, implementing. The other nice thing about ConvertCart that I really like is, because the company works with a lot of different e-commerce, they know what works, what experiments work, what campaigns work. So you can roll out a series of campaigns and have a really high confidence that they're all going to work, right? There's no let's roll out 5 and 1's going to work. No, we're going to roll out 10 and they're all going to work. There's no question. Now, that being said, sometimes they don't work for whatever reason, but these are tried and true e-commerce, e-commerce strategies that work pretty much with any type of e-commerce website. Now that's also another point is, this type of tool can be used on other types of websites. It just works really well with e-commerce. But yes, it can be worked with lead gen, with B2B, with anywhere where there's a conversion happening on a website. Tools like this need to be used. Let me just throw that out there. But,
I think I'd like to add to that, and we'll take, Jonathan has sent a really interesting question here, so I want to take that immediately after this. But
Okay.
but I think the other thing is the tool matters halfway through. I really appreciate the fact that we have the all-in-one 16 tools in one, solves all the problems possible, amazing. But the other problem is the outcome, which needs for there to be proper strategy and thought out execution. So
Yeah.
I think the only difference between and that's what we've tried to establish is be outcome driven. So the day that we started, we in fact signed up our first client, and we gave them a login to our system. But we would keep calling them each week, and we'd say, hey, you know what, this is something that we think you should do, and we analyzed your site proactively, and we did this. He said, you know what, why don't you do this? You guys already know how to do it. and
Yeah.
and that's when we figured out it's not the product that matters alone. Of course that matters, but it's also about how it's used. And that we created this technology, we are amazing at running it as well. So I think that is what leads to amazing ideas like this in the end, right? Now uh, uh, again, as I said, I want to take one of these questions Jonathan
Yeah.
just sent over,
Sure.
which is he loved the fact that we ran a survey to validate that the shipping costs were actually the problem. But he says, would you recommend to a retailer to provide a Prime-like membership so they can always get a shipping discount for X level of purchase and create even more stickiness and yes, your own database? So we all know the game Amazon's playing, right? So yeah.
What should they offer a membership on shipping? It's an interesting idea, but the problem is it just depends how loyal of a to the brand they are, and
Yeah.
if it's something that they think they'll buy repeatedly over time.
Yeah.
That's goes
That
to
makes
the
sense.
auto ship question. I'm always recommending that companies offer auto ship so companies can subscribe to products and buy
Yep.
them. That's a really effective way to increase revenue. But as far as offering on the shipping, maybe that one I'd have to think about a little bit more. I
So
like the thought process though behind
right.
it.
So I mean, in my opinion, it all depends on the volume and the segmentation of that volume in terms of how much is new, how much is old. Because presently, because that's what's gonna, that's what's gonna really change, um, uh, you know, what you do next. So if you've got 100 sales, of which 20 is repeat customers, that's just 20% of your base.
Yeah.
And if you have a product that needs repeat, that just may be for you. So I think that's where it would make a lot of sense. So I think Jonathan has a couple of other interesting questions for which I think we'll probably send over a few write-ups to you, Jonathan. I think change
Yeah.
management, absolutely difficult, but not if you get somebody who's going to run the show for you. I think we've seen companies, I mean, having worked with hundreds of companies now, what really matters is that you hold them accountable. We love to be held accountable. And I think as long as that's done, the change management falls in their kitty. You've just got to find the time to engage with your vendor or partner, whoever that is, such as ConvertCart, and make the horse run, and that's what matters. All right. So, well, thanks a lot, Evan. This is, I think, great. We've been able to show some great ideas here. What we are also happy to do is, for anybody who wants, we'd be happy to run a full-blown site analysis, a page-by-page study of your site's user behavior. We can do an audit of sorts to find areas on your site which may be having a significant negative impact on your conversion rate, and walk you through it. And we will be sending over, I think you will get a recording for this webinar probably at the end of it automatically. So thanks a lot for joining us. Thank you so much for your time, Evan. This was really meaningful.
My pleasure.
Appreciate it. Yes, Pramatesh, we're going to share the link to have the audit done. Thanks a lot for asking that. I'm happy to stick around for a minute to take any other questions that may be there. Please chime in, guys.
Yeah, one other point that is important is, a lot of companies, they want to they're not able to really make their digital advertising really perform the way they want it. So it's a huge
Right.
problem. And it's actually, I was saying, you know, your website conversion rate is basically cutting off, you know, your marketing budget. It's not allowing it to it's restricting your marketing budget basically.
It is.
So as you increase your conversion rate over time, you can open up
Right.
your marketing budget. They go hand in hand. They
Yeah.
correlate to each other.
Yeah, I remember you telling me about, you know, how companies end up not expanding their budget as much as they want to because they're scared it's all going into a ditch, because
Right.
it's not returning into performance. You've seen that with your clients, right?
Yeah, well, you know, if a website's only converting at 2%, you know, or 1.5%, 98% of their traffic is going into a ditch effectively. If they're not, you know, opting them in, you know, collecting their email properly, if they're not retargeting properly, if they're not, you know, capturing data on the site properly. So most companies that aren't using these types of interactive tools on the web, you know, another one of my saying is, you know, tools are the biggest advancement in e-commerce in the last 10 years.
Right.
Before there are tools like these, you really were just trying to like change a thing, make it say something else, and just see if it increased conversion rate. It was really primitive, but we used to do it back in the day.
Right.
But the nice thing I like about ConvertCart also is it's a managed service. Like I said, it's an affordable managed service. So they assign a rep, and the rep handles everything. You just have to get on the phone with them every week or two, and you know, just have, you know, discuss what's coming up next, and they design it all, implement it all, test it all, and launch
Yep.
it on the website. So it's really hands off. It's as hands off as you want it to be, and
Right.
that's a huge benefit to utilizing a tool like this properly. Is
Right.
it's not left in the client's hands, because
Yep.
very few companies have the internal staff that could really power a tool like this.
Yep.
So when I work with a client with a ConvertCart, I'm involved. So it's myself, the ConvertCart account executive, and the client. We all jump on a call. We go over everything, and we strategize. We review results, and we plan the next
Yeah.
set of campaigns, and it goes really, really well.
Right.
Yep.
But that also answers Pramatesh's next question, which is, when you say you make the horse work, do you mean that you will manage the code and tech on my website and run these? So here's how it works. When we start to work with the client, we take the first 3-4 days to analyze historical data and find some of the lowest hanging high impact fruits. Once we've done that, we come back, we pitch ideas, we then go back, design mockups, we figure out what technology, which of the features is going to bring in the maximum impact. And we go through the whole cycle. So no, we're not getting into the tech. We're not getting into your website's code. We actually make these improvements like any other technology out there, where we run overlay implementations through asynchronous JavaScript to segment and run it in specific areas of the site. And that allows you to really be focused in the way you approach something like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So go ahead.
Correct.
Evan.
Well, I was going to say, you know, it pretty much runs itself when it's up and running. There is some, the nice thing is there are tried and true campaigns that can get all rolled out one after the other. And
Right.
then some creativity comes into play with, you know, tweaking one area or another, or, you know, coming up with new creative experiments. So there's some brainstorming there, but initially there isn't, because a lot of these conversion boosting experiments, they work across the board, you know, regardless of niche, regardless of industry, regardless of site type, or, you know, these are tried and true e-commerce winners, you know. So, you know, not doing these things as opposed to doing these things is night and day, you know.
Yep.
Don't even think about, you know, being able to utilize digital advertising effectively if you're not utilizing these types of tools on the website.
Yes.
And the other nice thing about these examples are these are you know, untypical examples. These aren't even the ones that are usually rolled out first, you know.
Right.
These
True.
you know, these are like in the top, I'd say like in the top 10, you know,
Right.
somewhere in the top 10. But there are others. These are more like unique examples or more creative examples. And the point of that is, the nice thing about ConvertCart also is when it's all customized to the client's website and the niche.
Right.
So yes, it's a spinning wheel. Yes, it's a pop-up. Yes, it's an exit pop. But yes, it's a survey. But it's customized to the website. It's not generic at all. And it matches the branding. It matches the color scheme. It matches the font. Everything matches your site's overall layout. And and so that's another important aspect of it, because nothing looks like it's foreign or being powered by a foreign source. It all looks like it just lives on your website all harmoniously. Yep.
Absolutely. Well, I think let's conclude with the point that it all comes down to data, strategy, and the right way of doing things rather than just doing them. Thanks a lot for joining us, Evan. Thanks a lot for joining us, guys. We'll be in touch again, Evan. Thank you so much for finding the time. This is really meaningful. You have an awesome day. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Bye-bye.